Hello and welcome to the Screen Chronicles. I'm Colby. With me as always is Steve, and today we're joined by a very special guest. You Last Kingdom fans will know him as Lord Wihtgar of Bebbanburg. Ossian Perret, welcome to the Screen Chronicles.
Thank you. Hi.
Thanks for coming on today, Ossian. We really love to hate and really enjoyed how you portrayed Wihtgar on The Last Kingdom. He was definitely
having me.
Yeah. How you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah.
Well, season 5 just came out of The Last Kingdom. Congrats on another awesome season of it. You came in season 4, and I think immediately when we met your character, we were kind of like, ooh, okay, this guy is going to be formidable. He's going to be, definitely a thorn in Uhtred's side,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's new.
Man, when I read that, when I read that I was gonna have to kill off like a main character, like a loved character, I read it and I was like, oh my god, no.
Like one of the first things you do.
Literally, like one of the first things I do.
Which we still haven't forgiven you for, by the way. Wait, you absolutely should have refused them then. No, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah,
we know you weren't trying to kill him. We know you were trying to kill young Uhtred. That.
Yeah, that's the. I know. I will try and say that every time is that it's Beaka's sacrifice.
Exactly. That's the thing.
It was
you weren't
his
aiming for
choice.
Beaka. It was young Uhtred.
No.
So I mean,
yeah. If anything, I was like kind of annoyed to have hit Beaka. I was like, man,
you were,
because of him I missed young Uhtred,
absolutely. So backing it all up, Ossian, could you tell us a little bit about your acting story and how you got into it?
I guess I've kind of always just goofed around and loved just clowning and stuff like that, and just performing for friends and family and just doing bits and stuff. And like I didn't really, so at school we had like drama classes and stuff, but I didn't really take it seriously. It was kind of just like fun and as a joke kind of until high school. High school, we had like actual, like proper productions. And with my drama teacher there, Amy Smearsall, she was amazing. And she like actually she loved theater and stuff. And she pushed to get some proper productions put on like outside of school at theaters like in Bern. So I grew up in Switzerland. So it was kind of doing those plays that I was like, this is really fun. But it never occurred to me, like when you're 16, 17, that you can like do that as a profession. And especially in Switzerland, like I didn't really look into it because there's not really like drama schools and stuff there in Switzerland.
Oh, really?
Like,
okay.
I guess the acting scene there is much smaller than it is in the UK or France even, or, the States. Kind of didn't occur to me that could be a thing until like late high school, when I was like, oh shit, everyone's kind of picking what they want to do as a career, and there's all this pressure, and everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna go study, I don't know, chemistry, I'm gonna go study law, all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my god. And so I think I wanted to do a lot of things, and I couldn't really decide because I wanted to do a bit of everything. And I think that's why acting was the best option, is you kind of get a chance to do a bit of everything. And I wanted to do directing first. I went to do like a filmmaking course in Scotland at the Royal Conservatoire there. And that was just a short 2-week course. And I think during that period, I realized that I was hanging out with because there was like a screen acting course at the same time. But I realized during that time that I was hanging out with the actors more. And I was like, oh man, these are like my people.
Cool. Do you still have ambitions to someday direct?
Definitely. I think right now I've put them to one side. I think I still have like I always wanted to go more towards music videos. I love the fact that you don't have to worry about dialogue, you don't have to worry about necessarily capturing audio, and you just tell a story through the music. I always loved that. And there's somewhere on YouTube, I'm sure there's like hidden channels of mine with like terrible music videos.
Really?
Oh, come on. We got to see them now.
No, I'm not going to tell anyone how to find them. But there's like, I did like Jack Sparrow dancing videos and like,
oh yeah,
perfect.
I don't know. But like, so I loved making like little music videos and stuff. And so, eventually I'll get back into directing, but But when I read, like, music is still a big thing for me. Like when I read the scripts, like when I read especially episodes 9 and 10, because that was kind of where the bulk of my stuff was in season 5. I would read it, but with music. I'd like movie soundtracks on, to get like, because then when you're reading it, you immerse completely, and like there's no outside noise. You have soundtrack playing the whole time, and I'd be reading it and being like, man, like when I read this season, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be such a good one.
Yes, yeah, and we have to say, we were so satisfied with the ending. You and the rest of the cast really killed it. So thank you guys for all your hard work. It was really awesome.
There's so many moments when I was reading season 5 where I was like, this is going to be such a standout moment. This is going to be such a standout moment. Yeah. And like, I think for me, the moment that hit me the hardest while I was reading it was probably Millie Brady's death.
Wow, we didn't see it coming.
No.
I think, we're all expecting Aelswith to die this season after the end of season 4, and it's just totally...
Yeah, Aelswith goes strong.
Yes, yeah.
She moves into Bember.
She does. I swear. And oh my god, I love that when she's like, at the end, she's like, I think I'll be needing a room.
That was hilarious.
Preferably with a sea view. Like, she has some golden moments this season, and like, I remember her, when I read it, she has like, she has an Éowyn moment in Lord of the Rings, when she's like, I am no man.
Yes, she does.
Aelswith really has a moment like that, and I was telling her, I was like, you have an Éowyn moment.
That's so awesome. We had her on the podcast before, and she had told us, we asked when we know a character's coming back for the next season, we like to ask, what would you like from your character? And she said, like, I'd like some sort of battle moment or some kind of combat. And so we were so excited to see that that's what she got. It was super cool. And then she brags about it for the next 2 episodes, which is so fun.
How did you get involved in The Last Kingdom?
Yeah, so figured acting was a profession, came to London, did the drama school thing, got an agent, and then via my agent, we started doing auditions. And I had the audition through for that, and another friend of mine had an audition through for it, and he was like, man, you'd love this part. I was like, oh, what is it? And I was like, oh, maybe I'll ask my agent, maybe it's going to come through. And then it came through, and I was like, oh, yes. And I'd done The Witcher at this point, and I've always loved like medieval worlds, medieval
same with us,
anything like that. I grew up like watching Lord of the Rings, and just with my dad, like we used to. So my mom grew up in the north of England, and we used to visit. Funnily enough, my mom grew up in Alnwick, which is right by Bamborough, which is right by like it's in Warkworth. She grew up in Warkworth. So right by Bamborough Castle, pretty much.
Cool.
Like a 40-minute drive. So I was like, that's my roots. I'm from there.
That's sweet. That's sweet.
We used to go to Warkworth Castle or Alnwick Castle and just roam around the castles, and they always, you can buy like wooden swords and stuff. Of course. And me and my dad like make up little sword fights in the courtyard and start like choreographing them and stuff.
He was training you to take Bebember.
Yes, he was training me to take Bebember.
You didn't know it, but
I didn't even know.
Please tell me you didn't use a crossbow on him. Please tell me.
No, he's still around.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always like loved just that world, and so when that audition came through, I was like, oh yes, thank you. I just prepped, like I think I had like a couple of days to prep for it, and I just did nothing else for 2-3 days. I was like absorbed in those scenes. I got the scenes for the audition were the scenes where I on the ramparts in episode. It's the beginning of 3, I think, when I when I killed Beowulf. It was all that stuff, and then also the reunion with Aelfric, with father.
Gotcha.
Which in the script they had on the beach in the audition script. It was on the beach. I was down on the beach, and we had this like beach reunion, which I was like, kind of nice. But I went in for the audition for that, and like I just felt like I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and like when I went in, the camera was down low, like on a chair, and I was like, and I'd met Alex before, Alex Irwin, who did the casting with me.
Oh, gotcha.
I was, I had a little more confidence to be like, hey, do you think we could like get rid of the chair and just move the camera up? Because like these scenes are standing, so I kind of wanted the energy of standing to carry, like, because it does make a difference if you're sat down. And So I did that, did my crossbow scene, and like 3 weeks went by, and I was like, oh. And then my agent called, and he was like, hey, do you want to come by the office? And I was like, okay, sure, I'm in the area, yeah. And I came by, and he was like, we chatted for like 20 minutes, and then he was like, how are you? Yeah, good. And then eventually he was like, so remember the Last Kingdom, that audition you did? And I was like, oh, yeah. He was like, so you got it. And I was
like, yes. That's awesome. I know that would be my reaction too if I got a role in the last. That's so cool. Had you seen the show before this point?
I hadn't actually. Well, when I got the tape through, I went through and watched all of Aelfric's moments, because I knew I was playing his son. I wanted to like bring a bit of his energy, especially to the audition. I mean, he's not really in the books. He's in the books at little moments, only when he crossed paths with Uhtred, main Uhtred.
Exactly.
And also he's also called Uhtred in the books. So I was like, I was kind of like skimming through when I knew which books were based on which season. I would like have a skim through to see if I could find Wihtgar, and I was like, where the fuck is he? Until I realized like cousin Uhtred. I was like, is that me? And I was like, so I'd like read the passages, and so I kind of like for the audition, I used the stuff Aelfric had done, Joe Milson had done.
Yeah.
Watched of his energy and his he's amazing, and like to work with, just such a blessing, and like his intensity with the words and his precision, and also I loved Matthew McFadden's stuff in season 1, and I kind of took a lot of inspiration from that as well for the audition. And for season 4, Wihtgar especially, he has an intensity and like a fire to the way he speaks, especially when he's like clouting Osbert before he becomes Uhtred. The kind of the passion with which he speaks is
interesting.
I love that, and I wanted to kind of bring that to.
Oh wow! So you went all the way back to your uncle, to Matthew McFadden. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was interesting reading the little moments in the books where cousin Uhtred does come in, and like there's a moment in the book where it mentions that he has like a wife and a son, or a wife and a child in the book. And I was like, oh, it was interesting that they didn't introduce that into the TV show. It does create a whole extra. I think Wihtgar as a character anyway is riddled with insecurities, and I think that really comes across in season 5 when everything starts, his whole world starts to crumble. All his insecurities come through. Uhtred's back. I have no lineage. I have no wife. No.
Right.
But I thought that was interesting that in the books he has a wife and a child. It kind of does add a level of threat to
totally
have
does
a son or a daughter.
Totally does. Just like it was a threat that when we found out in the show that Aelfric had a son.
Yeah.
Oh crap.
Yeah, I was really surprised because we first started watching the show before we read any of the books. So we like to stay away from reading the books before that season comes out. So I was really surprised when Wihtgar came in at all. And it was a really cool scene too, because it's just, here's all these very Northumbrian people, and then Wihtgar just rolls up and he's got this diverse crew, and he's
every corner of the world, I think,
pirate.
Yeah, it was, oh man, it was so exciting to be able to bring like a diverse crew of people with me, and like also like costume is one of my favorite things when I'm starting to do a character, and like I've never seen a costume like Wihtgar had in season 4.
I love your season maybe 4.
Like I was like, it's not gonna get better than this. Like so cool. And we with Molly MRO, we talked about his design for season 4, and I remember she wanted to take elements from Skade with the tight like leather under tunic, and the tight bands and stuff, but then also like the jewelry and the necklaces and like the embroidery. I had this like little, basically she laid out all this stuff on this table, all these like little medals and cloths and stuff, and she was like, what do you want to do? Like, what should we do? And she had obviously the big main picture and the shape, and then she just kind of let me pick out what I liked and wanted to add, and then we talked about where we could add things. And like I love this kind of extra cloth she put on the lapel, this incredible like embroidered cloth that just pops. And then I was like, oh my god, and across that there was like this gorgeous kind of hanging metal coin thing.
Yep.
That I was like, oh, if that was like across there as well, it's great that he's kind of just pillaged from kind of different parts of the world and like is wearing it with him. I love that.
That pops, I feel like watching it as a viewer, she did such a good job. We think Molly Amaro is a genius. And she did such a good job that you can kind of see that in your costume. Like, I mean, obviously you say I've collected these men from every corner of the world, but all these different coinage and different medals on your arm. Super cool costume.
Yeah. I love the little details she added. Like there was like little, I think I posted on my Instagram, the little fish patterns right at the bottom of the hem of the coat. And like the way they distress it with like, they make it look like it's been worn down by sea salt and things like that. And it's just so cool. I tried adding to it as well. Like
what did you add?
Talked about makeup, I bought a giant bag of like 2 kilo sea salt and I filled my sink in my bathroom of the apartments we were staying. And every morning I would go and dunk my head in my sink full of sea salt to make my hair look as crusty and salty as possible. I didn't wash it for the full 2 weeks we were filming.
Oh my God. I think that like comes across too, like when you come out, your face looks weathered. I would say weathered, like, and your hair is like looks. I guess you said crusty, but but it looks like this guy's been around.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, they made me look all like sunburned and like sun crazed, and it was really cool.
Was that the first scene you filmed? Oh, hey, look at that!
My pre-drawing.
That's from season 4.
That was from season 4, yeah. Cool. I love how I went in, I had this idea, I was like, let's do long hair, and then they were like, no. So I was like, okay, we'll do short hair.
So
I was imagining like long golden sea bleached locks.
Is that like a character prep book that you do there? Is that what that is?
This is my little kind of character prep book thing.
Cool.
That I have. So I have like my little I do like little lists of characteristics and stuff, like things like that. I'd write down like inner characteristics that are not seen to the world, and then outer characteristics that are seen to the world. So like things that Wihtgar is when he's not around people, and things like that. But I don't know.
And those are things I'd love to learn more about from you, because I feel like there's a lot of mystery with Wihtgar. Obviously, this guy's traveled the world. Not only that, but he survived. There's a little hint of his father kicking him out, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that the show doesn't dive into more specifically, but I'd love to know sort of your thought process on his backstory a little bit, and maybe some of his personality traits we don't see.
Yeah, I had a little backstory for the scar, because he has this scar, and they put it on, and obviously they don't tell you why they're putting a scar on your face. It's just battle scar. And I was like, okay, it'd be kind of nice if this scar has some kind of connection, it would have to, and I would have to know where it was from, the same way Uhtred has all these scars, and you see them build up over the seasons, and they all have a moment that they happened. Yeah. So I like the idea that the scar was like a big old clout from Aelfric, like with a ring on or something, and then it was caught and snagged his face, and so I kind of had this like little shadow mimic that comes in every now and then, as though all the resentment from my father is held right here, and I'm just like all there in that scar.
Cool.
That was just like a little thing I thought would be neat to add backstory, I guess. Yeah, being banished by the father, and then coming back. He wanted to come back and take it for his own. Right.
And he says that to Uhtred, like he's like, I'm here for the same reason you are. I just saw an opportunity, Yeah, and my dad's weak right now, so I thought I'd come and swoop in and take it.
I think I remember writing something about like, it's like I almost pitied Aelfric, and I like I say, I came to put my father out of his misery,
Yeah, you do.
And his pathetic attempt at protecting Bebumber, and like
the first time we do see your character interact with his father, then with Joseph Milson there at Bebumber. What was it like there getting in that for that scene?
It was interesting pitching that scene, because like we were thinking about like, okay, what was the relationship like before they left, and then when he comes back, like are they pretending to be happy to see each other? Is it like, are they actually happy? Are they, I didn't expect to maybe come back alive, and I'm coming back alive, and he's still alive. And there's a moment, like, it's such a violent time period.
Yeah.
People could go anytime, like you could.
And he had just kind of assumed you died, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
He comes out looking at you like, who is this? Like, what?
Yeah, completely. I think there's this little adjustment period in that scene where we're both just like looking at each other, kind of like, wow, you're still alive. Damn, okay, we gotta sort that out.
And I feel like he's sort of happy to see you because he's like, oh, my bloodline. Like,
yeah, and I've brought back like all these men and stuff. There was this line in that scene where Elfrich is like, I thought we had lost you, something like that, my son. And then I say something like, I assure you, your descendants will thrive. It's kind of horrible, but it's like Wihtgar's essentially been raping women all over the place, and it's a horrible line, but it tells you a bit about his character and the fact that like he's like, oh, I assure you, your descendants will thrive. You're gonna have kids everywhere. I made sure of it. It's
every corner of the world.
Every corner of the world. It's disgusting, but it is.
Yeah, but it's his character, right? And that epic scene in season 4, obviously.
Yeah.
Sarah Gorman directed the first part of episode 3. We had her on the podcast. She was wonderful.
She was amazing.
She has. So could you just talk about maybe a little bit more about the preparation of that scene? Because here we go, you're a new character on set, and now you're all of a sudden doing a scene with Mark Rowley, Alexander Draymond, Ian Hart, Joseph Milson. Could you talk about that scene a little bit?
What was interesting about that scene is it was kind of like an unfortunate hostage negotiation situation, like everything happens so quickly, and like suddenly Uhtred has my dad, and then I'm there, and I'm like, well, you take away Uhtred's power by simply taking out the hostage.
Right.
And it seemed like it's kind of a logical thing to do, and then I retain the power. He has no hostages, and I'm up top with crossbow and other archers and men on the ground, and
it's in the bag. That's what it seems like.
Yeah,
it seems like this is it.
Yeah, all the control is there.
That was a huge twist too. Just like Elfrich dying, like I was expecting him to be the big baddie for this season,
right? Yeah,
and then just bam, arrow to the eye. That was a huge like cliffhanger for that episode.
Yeah,
and you're like, all right, well, that's the craziest thing that can happen then, right? Like, we've already used a crossbow here.
Yeah. No, that scene, I mean, it was weird shooting that scene, to be honest, because I was apart from all the others up on the ramparts for most of it, and like it took time to come all the way down and go up the ramparts, so I kind of just stayed up there, which was it was interesting coming to the show, being completely new to the show, kind of feeling a bit like an outsider coming to the season 4 of something. And I kind of just rode that for I knew I was only going to be there for 2 weeks. Whenever I wasn't shooting, which was not often, I was not hanging out with like Alex and Mark and them because they were always shooting.
Right.
So and I was shooting stuff with them. So like we didn't hang out much. We didn't actually get to talk much just off set or like in the green room. Even in the green room, they were night shoots. So we were all just like, oh, like not super like talkative and stuff. And I think I kind of also wanted to just maintain a bit of distance personally between Alex and the main crew, just so that when we were acting, there still was that kind of, we don't really know each other and we've never really properly met. Like, I didn't meet Alex or any of them before shooting. Like the first day of shooting was the first day I met them. Like I didn't meet Alex at the recall. I didn't have the recall or anything. It just went straight from the first audition to the thing. But having that kind of detachment from them personally was kind of nice when playing that scene, because I was all the way up over here and they were all the way down there. And there was that kind of, I'm the new sheriff in town kind of thing, and you don't know anything about me. It was nice to just ride that energy and see what it brought out. And weirdly, like, it's weird. Obviously, Alex is so busy, and we never really hang out with him. Like, he's always prepping scenes, and I think I hung out with him once outside of shooting, and that was after we finished shooting. You know, because like all the Bebember stuff was one of the last things we shot when we did season 5, and so it was just me and Bam, who plays Yahya, and a couple others of the guys left over at the end, and so we had dinner and stuff. But like, it was weird that for almost all of those 2 weeks on season 4 and then all of season 5, I feel like me and Alex kind of, I don't know if he feels the same way, but I feel like we kind of avoided getting too close offset. And like, even when we were like shooting on days and we had downtime between scenes, we wouldn't really talk. Like, we would talk a little bit and we'd be like, how's things, blah, blah. But we didn't want to get too personal, it feels like, because we wanted to maintain that rivalry in a sense. And so
it'd have been a lot harder for him to throw you off a balcony if
it's really interesting though, because me and Alex went to the same drama school. He was there like 7-8 years before me, I think.
Oh, interesting.
So we talked about that briefly and stuff, and I think he grew up in Switzerland, or like same. So we spoke a little bit in German here and there, but like, anyway, it was nice not knowing him too personally and having that wall between us. And it means that when we finish shooting and when my demise happens after that, I was like all tears, and me and Alex had a big hug afterwards.
Oh,
and
cool.
It felt like we'd been holding so much. I mean, maybe he hadn't, but it felt like I'd been holding so much away from him while we were filming.
Right.
And once we finished filming and my character was done and that journey was over, I was like, oh, Alex.
Yeah, interesting.
I can be friends now. He's so lovely.
Yeah.
He was so cool to work with. And that last scene was, some of the season 5 scenes are amazing to shoot. I feel like in season 5, Wihtgar is constantly just losing his control and just trying to gain it back every little moment and stuff.
Totally. I mean, these guys have come into his house, you know?
Oh my God. It's such a swing from season 4. Like, we leave Wihtgar in season 4 being in total control and being complete king of the castle, basically, to, I mean, what, like 8 to 10 years supposedly passes between seasons 4 and 5. I think Wihtgar has kind of just been enjoying the comforts of Bebember in those 8 to 10 years.
Yeah. I was going to ask how your approach changed compared to season 4, coming into season 5 for Wihtgar.
Yeah. So season 4, I think he was much more like hot-headed, much younger, much more passionate, much more like, I wouldn't say driven, because he's still driven in season 5, but he was much more kind of fiery in his approach to taking what he wanted.
Totally.
I think we get that at the end of season 5 in episodes 9 and 10, when we see sort of season 4 Wihtgar start to creep back. I think from episodes 6, 7, 8, Wihtgar he's playing things a lot more cool. I think I wanted to just bring things down a notch. Like, he's now been a lord for 10 years, and he's had people work for him. He has a right-hand man. Like, he has people to do things for him. He doesn't have to lift the sword. He doesn't have to. Literally, he's like taking all the precautions so that he can just stay secure in Bebember. And so that's why he's like, it's low, but he's making alliances with Scotland to keep himself protected.
Right.
You know? Little does he know that those alliances involve Aethelhelm. And as soon as Aethelhelm becomes involved, suddenly, oh my God. Dude, acting with Adrian was amazing.
Yeah. What a season he had. Oh man.
Oh yeah. I think he's the true villain this season. Like,
he became it, and that was a little unexpected. I mean, we knew he was gonna kind of have a role. We didn't know if his main role in season 4 was gonna kind of dim down, but no, he kind of turns into a Sith Lord, we say. And like
oh my God. We joke about that with Ewan. There's a scene when he's like, the esteem of Charlemagne the Great.
Yes.
It's like he's going, unlimited power. Neil, do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, we thought he had a wonderful season. So what was it like to work with him?
It was amazing. And like, also what's interesting is obviously he's this older lord who's much more experienced than Wihtgar and has been playing games for far longer and toying with royals and toying with people's minds and plotting. And so when he comes in, it's interesting because it feels almost like he's like an older version of Wihtgar. They're kind of like, they see eye to eye in a sense. And it's interesting because he's an older actor than me and has been acting for far longer and is much more experienced in just the world of acting. And so to have me, a younger actor, do scenes with Adrian, but also Wihtgar, a younger lord,
right,
trying to hold his own with an older lord who's much more experienced in like scheming and things like that, was super interesting. That the energy there of me being like, I'll keep up with you.
Right.
It kind of matches, you know,
mm-hmm.
the energy between Aethelhelm and Wihtgar. And we had a lot of fun. Like there was a moment before when we're about to meet King Constantine, we've both just like kind of eyed each other up for the first time, and we're like, and right before shooting, every time we'd be like taking the piss out of each other. We'd be like, so I should speak up, shouldn't I? Because you're quite old. I'm sure you can't hear me. Should I speak louder? And then he'd be like, is that you call that a beard? And I'd be like, beard. We'd try and like find little things to just take the piss out of each other and build that kind of
which happens in the show too. Like
which happens in the show. Oh my God, that bit went completely. That bit when he's like, I was expecting someone different.
I know.
Man, I had tried so hard to keep a straight face during that. I was literally like,
yeah.
And the scene you mentioned too, when he's talking about, you'll be like Charlemagne. I love that you're just like up in the balcony above him, and you can just hear everything, and you guys are just like shit talking him. You're just like, is he drunk?
Is he drunk?
yeah. It's nice. There's all those little moments, and that's like it's so funny because it's like we're both just taking a step up the step. It's like who's trying to be higher on the steps, you know? Right. Who's trying to be? It's like a battle for Lord of Bebbanburg, and he comes in and he sits. And there's the dinner scene when he sat in my chair at the head of the table, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
I know. We said when we did our episode recaps, you're like, he's sitting in his chair. He just came into Bebbanburg.
Need to get that crossbow out. Need to get the crossbow out.
I know. It was amazing because we were talking about all of this, and Constantine was doing it as well. When he comes in, and he's inspecting my throne room, and there's this bit when him and Aethelhelm are staring at my throne, where Aethelhelm is talking to Constantine, and Constantine is like just inspecting my throne, and you can tell he's so disappointed in how shit my throne is compared to his.
He's just like, I got to get some lumbar support on that. I'm gonna need some cushions.
Yeah, but it was so nice, that dynamic of just like Wihtgar just trying to like regain control in moments, just really pathetic kind of, you know, that moment when he comes and he's like, there's spoils have turned up on the beach, allow me to claim the spoils, you know, what arrives on my land is mine.
Right.
It's like a pathetic little show of, this is my fortress,
right,
I'm gonna do what I want here. And that happens constantly, like throughout season 5. There's little moments of, and then constantly like just undermining him and undercutting him, and same with Aethelhelm, like that bit where I come in and he's staring out the window and he's like, you can come in now, and I'm like,
yes, yeah,
there's someone here to see. I'm like, I'm not your lackey, you can't just tell me what to do.
Exactly.
And then he's like, who's here for me? And I'm like,
he's like, I'm ready now. He's like, I'm ready now.
I'm ready now. I know. Just those little moments were so fun to play with. I felt so lucky to do them with Adrian, because we just felt like we had a lot of fun finding those moments. And Adrian, like, I felt really comfortable with him. I've never corpsed filming anything before.
Okay.
And I when you laugh during a scene, basically.
Well, yeah, I picked up on that from context clues. We've talked to like a few people from like UK. So I was like, why are people saying corpse? Like, what happened? Like,
who did they kill?
I know,
who died?
There is a story behind it, but I can't remember what it is.
Okay, we'll have to look it up after.
But there's a moment when I come down and he's like, Aethelhelm is preparing all these provisions And I'm like, are we expecting to be besieged? Like, what's going on? It was during that scene that like it was on Adrian, but we were doing a few more takes, and at one point I was just like, and the words just like, I was like stumbling, and the words just weren't coming out, and I tried again and again, and eventually Adrian just went, and he just like let out this huge laugh. It was the funniest thing, and then I just started laughing, and we were like crying of laughter, just because I don't know, it was just such a good moment. And from that point on, I've just like, I feel like acting with Adrian was just wonderful.
Cool. We need a blooper reel. We need a TLK blooper reel, I think.
I know.
That'd be a lot of fun.
They, I think they give us like a little preview of the first 10 minutes of episode 1 at the end of shooting.
Yeah.
At the wrap party, we had like a preview, and then after that, they did like a little 5-minute blooper reel.
Oh, so cool.
It does exist. It does exist.
Well, that's exclusive right now. That's exclusive.
Another great character that you get to interact with is King Constantine too. This season, Ron Hallett. Yeah. What was it like working with him too? I know he was telling us he really enjoyed working with you. I think he was saying he was one of your favorite people to do scenes with when he came in.
That's sweet. I loved working with Rod. He was like, we often shared a car to set as well, so we would just chat all the way to set. And I loved on the way to, as soon as I saw him in the morning, he was doing the Scottish accent. Like he would maintain that all the way in the car, and I was like, that is. You have to. It's such a hard accent. Like, a
lot of our listeners were surprised that it wasn't his natural accent. A lot of the people who commented on the video.
Yeah, it's amazing. Working with Rod was so good. There's this scene when we're all sat across it. Constantine has like just arrived. Ewan, who plays Elfweird, is coming down the steps, and he's like, "Is this the boy who would be king?" And then I sit down at the table, and it's right before he's about to meet the bride, Elfwin. And I sit down at the table, and there's this lovely little moment where there's this chain of command that happens.
Yes.
And Constantine goes, "Can you fetch the Lady Elfwin?" And then Aethelhelm looks at me, and then I go, "Okay, you can go, Bam." And then Yahya goes to get Elfwin. That just happens constantly. But we loved talking about the scenes and like talking about what we wanted to try and achieve and just kind of what our intentions were with the scene and stuff. He was really, sometimes actors don't want to talk about it too much. And sometimes I don't want to talk about it too much, depending on the scene. But like,
sure.
Whenever we had scenes together, it was great fun just to be like, let's try to hit those moments, and it was really cool. And it makes it a really comfortable working environment. But during that scene, there was a candle like right above my head, and it was dripping, and then eventually it like, because basically the wax melts and builds up on the top of the candle, and then eventually it overflows and it just goes blah, blah. And I was during that scene, it just suddenly went and like I got hot wax like all over my face, and I was like, ah!
What?
We had to spend like 20 minutes like picking wax out my hair because it congealed in my hair.
You also had like we mentioned before, you had the crazy cliffhanger when you killed Elfrich back in season 4, and going on with Constantine too. I mean, I think one of my favorite cliffhangers from this season, or like sort of end of the episode scenes, was when they're just going around the Northumbrian table, and I'm just like, oh, we're gonna get to see Wihtgar here, and then what about you?
Cool
Wihtgar,
introduction,
Lord of Bebbanburg. And you're just like, yep, and then just that, like,
he's like, who are you?
That was a great cliffhanger.
Yourself, That was so cool.
That scene was that moment was a little longer originally. Originally, he went around a couple more lords, and as he was asking more lords, Anthony Phillipson, who's directing that episode, had this amazing shot which basically went down the line on the lords here, and you couldn't tell it was me. I was just out of the shot like this, and then Constantine was here. The camera went like this, and Constantine was like, "And what about you? What about you? And what about you?" And then I suddenly appear, and I'm like, "I swear, also." And it was this gorgeous like reveal he had in mind, but I don't think it made it. I don't think they used that in the end.
There is like a quick shot of the whole table, and I like how they did it, and you can't see it. I don't think it's as long as the one you're talking about, so they probably didn't use that full edit. But I did think it was like, oh, that's cool how they did it. Like they have him sort of offset, so he's there, but you can't. It could just be an extra. It could just be a different Northumbrian lord.
Anthony was like, you need to like not stand like Wihtgar now. You need to like pretend you're not Wihtgar for the wide, so that people don't kind of guess you're Wihtgar straight away.
Right.
I was like, okay.
Yep, there you go.
From behind. I'm just the Lord.
Then you have sort of the showdown we had been waiting for since early season 4. You know, we knew at some point Uhtred and Wihtgar were going to kind of face down. And I also love, by the way, I just real quick, he's not a dumb guy. No. And the whole time with Aethelhelm, you're always sort of like, he's kind of like painting a picture for Aelfweird, like, you're going to be king and you're going to do this. And you're like, and you're going to start a war, dude.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You're always like throwing in like, oh, here's what you're not telling him. Which I thought was cool. But then there's this other line you say to Yahya, where he asks, is your cousin still with the Saxons? And you're like, yeah. And that's why we're not leaving these walls. and I was like, smart.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite little moments. We will not be leaving these walls, whatever promises we have made, whatever alliance. Like, essentially, it all comes back to Wihtgar. Wihtgar is, everything is self-preservation for him.
Yeah, he's not really on board with the whole Constantine, like what Constantine wants. He just wants Bebbanburg. He just wants to maintain what he has, right? And
yeah, completely.
And Bebbanburg's such a strong fortress that, like, if you just hold out a while, it's probably going to be fine.
Yeah. Exactly. And to be fair, everything Aethelhelm is saying, like, we can be besieged, we can hold off an army, is true. It
is true.
And I was going to add again that moment when Aethelhelm is saying we're going to do this and this, and then I'm like, yeah, but you're also going to start a war if you do that. It's another moment where Wihtgar is just just trying to get control again. It's like it's like, I'm still here. Exactly. And it feels like it's just that the whole way.
He even insults the food.
Oh yeah, he does. Oh my god, he insults the food. I'm like, and this is what's interesting. Like, Wihtgar could easily wants to just kill Aethelhelm.
Right.
He could have done it from like the first moment, but there's more at stake. It's like, and it was so nice having to just be like, and like bite my tongue for almost all of season 5. All those moments when they're like, when Constantine is like just undermining me, and I'm just like,
a lot of fake smiles, a lot of fake
smile. Like, oh, we get I love the scene with Heston on the beach where I'm like, please come into the fortress. No,
we have a wedding.
Warm.
We'd love to share. We have
a wedding. It's gonna be great.
There's no wedding.
It's again, it's like, I think Wihtgar's. I don't think Wihtgar's heard of Heston before. I think he just honestly assumes he's a traitor and it's a nun, and so I think he brings them in completely just as a means to throw off Aethelhelm and Constantine. Like, oh, you have guests, so do I. Here is one of my guests. Come in, Heston.
And to take all their stuff too. You're like, take everything.
Yeah. I love that line. And of course, we will take a tribute. And I love that reaction from Heston when he's like, of course.
Yeah. And then like when they're walking in, you're like, Heston's feeling generous. And the guy's just
completely.
running.
Yeah, completely.
I'm sure Wihtgar's pulled the old fake shipwrecked
that's gotta be
too, right?
No doubt, surely, yeah. Yeah, he should have known it was a trick. He should have known.
Yeah. Even after Constantine tells him, he's like, it's probably a ploy.
Yeah.
It could be a ploy.
Yeah, completely.
But I also love too when you go to get Aelfwine too. Once Edward's shown up and you go down to get her, you just sort of say, we just got to get her to a safe room. And they're just like, sure.
Yeah, it's I love that moment because Wihtgar has been so like under their thumbs for the whole season up until then. And that's a moment where he's like, okay, I can take command here and I can swing things into my favor again. He does for that brief moment. He's like, I know what to do. This is my place. We've done this before. Let me take charge. This is what's going to happen. She's going to go there. There's the, and then I take her up and then I think, great, this is going to work. It's going to clear them off because we have a hostage. And then as soon as he thinks, right, we have control here, it just starts to, they don't react. And then he's like, okay, put a knife to her throat. And then there are no reaction still. And it's like, I love that, the cutbacks, the interchange between Edward being like, do nothing. And Aethelhelm's like, quick, send someone. And then I'm just like, fine, throw her over. And it's just this kind of like, I think he's entered Wihtgar at this point. I like the idea that he just entered this kind of, I'm out of options. Like the options are just wearing thin, and he's like, just do it. Like he's kind of not giving up, but he's like, just do it. I don't know what else to do. And it's at that moment that Uhtred comes in, and it's like, and then from there, it's all downhill. Everything starts to crumble.
And I like too how you get away. Like you use his lapse in focus to give him the elbow, and he kicks you back, and that was pretty cool, pretty believable. I thought, to be able to get out of that. Obviously, you're chasing him down, and then he later comes back into the fortress. He like sees you on the ramparts, and then we get this sort of like, it felt like a boss battle. I don't know if you play video games, but it totally. And you were like,
I was gonna say, I think.
Yes. Oh, how is it, by the way, real quick?
It's so good.
I gotta get it. Oh my god.
But it's literally that. It's like Uhtred is going through the mist screen to come into the Wihtgar fight.
He does, and it's like, and of course he has his like minions first. He has his henchmen come out first, and to make it harder. But it was a sweet scene.
I loved it. The fight was longer originally, but like I think it needed to keep that momentum of him coming and the chase happening. And so I love the choreography. I love that Wihtgar throws one of his own men in front of himself to like, I think that's where the true Wihtgar kind of comes through as well. He is pathetic. He is like a little weasel, and he's cunning and he's vile, but like he'll
sacrifice
just like
his men first.
And I loved it in the books, like in the book that season 5 was based on 2 books, isn't it?
Right. Yep.
But that moment when they come to recapture Bebbanburg, that's when we meet Uhtred cousin again. Not only is it so different in the book, it's like Uhtred the cousin is like fat and on a horse, and he's like, welcome to my family. And then also in the book though, Uhtred hacks me to death. He has me like pinned down, and he just hacks me. Like he's just like, and
he doesn't make you a centerpiece on the table.
No, So I'm kind of, part of me was like, that would have been a pretty suitable death for Wihtgar, to go so like in such a just disgusting way, just so like grub, just like it was nice to have a final moment to try and like to just throw Uhtred off his course, and I think that's all. I think that's all it is really. I think Wihtgar at that moment when he's being held over the balcony. I think there's a moment where he's like, this is happening. I'm gonna die, and it's almost like a final kind of not a curse, but it's like a final. I guess it's kind of like a curse. It's like a final. It's like this is. I can't think of a better word than
like curse, almost like a prophecy, or like this is what's going to happen.
There we go. Yeah, exactly.
Like very dark side moment again. Just like a Sith moment here, like just trying to get him over to the dark side. Strike me down.
Yeah, completely. Which is, it's kind of interesting because I was thinking about it this morning before we spoke, and because I was just having a flick through some of the scenes again, it's kind of like re-jog the memory, and it's interesting that I'm like that's the prophecy. Your son will kill you like I killed my father, and that's the legacy of our line. And I was like, maybe it's interesting that Wihtgar didn't have a son, because maybe that has been one of his insecurities. Is that if Wihtgar had a son, his son would have killed him. And so maybe that's why Wihtgar didn't go there, because he would just have been constantly paranoid that he would do the same thing I did to my father,
Interesting.
It's just a thought I had, but
that's interesting.
Interesting as like a side story.
Totally.
He'd probably be paranoid too, that he's like, I could kill my dad. Like if I had a son that I raised, like he'd be worse. He'd like,
yeah, completely. And I think in those days, like, sons did kill fathers and
to take the
power and to take the throne, and things like that did happen. And
Totally.
The beauty of it, I guess, is it's so brief. Your life can be so brief.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love too, right before that moment when he pins you down against the balcony. It's sort of, I said in our recap talk, like a scary movie moment where your face just subtly appears behind Uhtred. And the only thing that makes Uhtred turn, the only thing that makes you not stab him in the back is that just little shadow he sees, right? Which was brilliant. But I love when your face appears because I don't know, it just put me on the edge of my seat.
It could happen. I could have just killed him.
Right?
You could have.
Right? I could have just gone.
You could have, and then that's where the show would have ended.
Or would have ended. Like, we would have had some like Wihtgar flashbacks, and then like you looking out over the ramparts.
Your Wihtgar goes to the balcony, is looking, and we just see.
But it's Elswith and everyone, they're all in the dungeons instead. They don't have rooms.
Eivor music just blasting.
Oh my god, imagine.
Oh my god. Hilarious. Obviously you get thrown off and you just get brutal death through whatever, sharp decoration candle holder you had.
Definitely should have decorated the table differently that night. Should have.
Yeah. There's a scene earlier where I think it's a scene where I'm asking to take my spoils. There was another scene in that courtyard, and I would have loved to make some kind of reference to the table decorations.
That'd have been cool.
I would have loved to just pick it up and be like, interesting. Yeah. But then to have that come back later and be like my death. But I think it would have been too on the nose, probably.
It might have been too on the nose.
Just to pick it up and be like, a little, ooh, spiky.
Or like when Aethelhelm was insulting the food, he could have been like, "What? Why do you have this sharp, candle thing here?" And you're like, "That's great. I keep that. I love that thing.
I love the way that looks. You don't understand art."
Up and, threatened him with it. You insult my food again with the candelabra thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
but it was awesome to see you guys running around Bebbanburg. I mean, what an incredible set. In general. It must have been surreal just to be on that. I mean, most of the time you're in Bebbanburg, almost all except for when you're in Scotland, I think. What was that like just to be on set there?
In Bebbanburg, the courtyard is amazing, and it's so nice to do the fight and actually be able to use the whole courtyard and be like moving around the carts and stuff, and also just whenever we weren't filming, I would just walk around. I would just try and walk around the courtyard as much as possible and I'd walk up and down the steps. You'd see me doing if I had to come down the steps in a scene, I'd be coming up and down those steps 30 times before we shot, just to make it look like I've been up and down those steps hundreds of times, And also, when you know your stairs, you don't have to look where you're stepping. You kind of you can go down them so fast. And you don't have to. I could go down. We live on the top floor of an apartment. I could probably go down looking at my phone now because I've done the stairs so many times that
just muscle.
So I would just, exactly, muscle memory, and then walking around the courtyard as well. Just being used to cobbles is something that we're not used to because streets are smooth and flat, and you don't have to worry about tripping on cobbles. And so, just getting used to picking my feet up over them and stepping differently and stepping with much more intention is what brought a lot of Wihtgar's kind of energy, as well as that kind of forward, purposeful step.
Yeah, he knows every inch of this place, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Which is completely why he leads him in up to the in the stairs above the throne room, because Wihtgar knows those areas and they'd be darkly lit and perfect for a sneak attack.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that scene again, though, what was it like filming your death? Was there? I mean, we see Wihtgar falls off over the side and he gets impaled. What all went in for you though? What did you do for that end?
That all happened on the last day for me as well. Wow. Okay. That was my last day of filming. I tried not to think about it too much because I think the little prophecy moment, I kind of knew what I wanted to do with that moment. The death and the impaling on the spike, I thought the camera was going to come over my face, and so what I did is, because obviously, there's a stunt guy doing the fall onto boxes from the balcony and also doing a cable drop. I was going to post it, but I was like, I don't know if people haven't seen it yet, so I don't want to risk spoiling it.
Yeah, right. We're trying to be sensitive to that too,
Yeah. My stunt double posted a video of it today, though, of him doing the flip onto the boxes, and like that's a big flip. And he did it once without cables, and then the second time it's a cable attached to a harness that he's wearing, but it's computer programmed to stop at the perfect moment, and it it decelerates like a meter before it stops, just so he doesn't have a complete, neck breaking jerk moment.
Yeah.
So that's all him, and then we cut to me for like I had my mouth full of blood, and they get you ready. I had this. The rig was amazing. It was like I had this like metal plates that went over my shoulder. It was like a shoulder plates like this, metal plates that they could screw the spike into, and they could screw the candelabra into in the back.
Yeah.
And then I would lie down on the table, and I would just stay there and wait for whenever we were going to shoot. And then they filled my mouth with blood, and they were like, okay. And all I had to do basically for that moment was this.
Yeah.
That moment there. I tried. I didn't think about it too much, but I was like, I've just been pierced. I'm,
right.
You start choking on blood, and I tried keeping my eyes open because it's such a sudden. Obviously, when it's such a sudden impact, you don't drift off.
Right.
So it's like a shocking death. So I tried where the blood was dribbling down my eye, and I was like trying to keep my eye open.
Oh my god!
The blood went through my eye, and I was like, oh my god, I hope they're getting this. But they didn't even use that shot. So.
Darn.
But it was amazing. I was like this, and then the blood had come out my mouth. It was going up my nose. I was like, oh my god! It was going down through my eye, and it would have been amazing. But cool. I think you've just seen me from here. That is an emotional end. I had a hard time on season 4, just not getting to hang out with the cast much, and not getting to get to know them really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all being done in 2 weeks it felt like it didn't happen,
Right. That's cool.
And also, I had a hard time working with Ed, the director, for episode 2. We didn't quite we clashed a little bit, but it's okay. We got there in the end.
Right.
So it was a real mixed experience on season 4. And so coming back to season 5 and it being such an incredible experience, and then finishing season 5 and it being over for me was that was hard. It was hard ending and being there's no more. And now, and at the end, I knew everyone really well at that point, and I was like, oh man, now it's ending.
Yeah. Going back again, you did an awesome job, and we appreciate everything you've done on the show, because Wihtgar definitely added a cool component to the show that we didn't expect going into season 4.
Oh, yeah.
Which was really cool to have. And I want to ask you about one more thing in season 4, because it's such a cool scene when you kill those 2 priests, and when you're just beating up young Uhtred is definitely something I want to touch on. Could you talk maybe about that scene, what it was like to shoot, maybe your approach, because you have an awesome throat stab to the second priest.
Yeah,
you're just bam.
Yeah, that was cool. That whole moment. Oh yeah, where I find young Uhtred who snuck into Edinburgh, and I'm beating him for answers.
Yes.
That was fun to shoot. Finn, it was amazing to work with, because we were both. It was both our first time on Last Kingdom, and we were both just happy to just try things with each other, and there's this bit where I drag him out from the main entrance, and I drag him down the stairs. We were constantly checking in with each other, it's okay if I grab you here, and I'm just gonna yank you down the stairs, kind of, but I'll hold on to you. And we had that whole we had that trust with each other to be able to be a little kind of rougher. Cool. And I drag him down, and then I throw him on the floor. And I think the main thing it was nice just being vicious in those scenes.
Yeah, you were vicious,
and just kind of trying to introduce Wihtgar as not the version we saw him as when we meet him on that first moment, because he's quite soft when we meet him with Elfrich the first time. They're still sussing each other out. He has a kind of you're not sure what he's like as a person, and I think as soon as that starts to happen and there's invaders in his home, he's nah. And you see that kind of flip side of him where he's much harsher, and he's much more. I mean, his name Wihtgar means something like spirit spear, or white spear, or something like that. And I like the kind of the spear element of it, that he's just I like that he spoke with a bite that he was like always, don't read too much into the stage directions, but like the stage directions were always like he speaks through gritted teeth. He's like he's just like all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's where like Aelfric just kind of realizes too, and he's like comes out like he was just, you know, he was in bed, he's coming out in his PJs, and he's just like, oh shit, like my son, like he's like kind of taking charge of this shit, like oh man, okay,
yeah, completely.
And he's I think that's where he kind of like sees like maybe I think he's kind of like in his head thinking like maybe he is like kind of a threat, like I have to lay down the law to young Uhtred, really, like show that like I'm in kind of control, because like it's definitely been your character that's just been running it here and be like there's definitely more, there's a plan, like like let's figure this out, and he wasn't prepared at all yet. So I think it's where you kind of first see it at there. Yeah.
The throat stab was freaking awesome though. I had just the dagger was actually just a short thing like this, and then I think they CG the rest into it just so I can. But I love that little moment where I stabbed the second guy, and that's as soon as Aelfric comes out, and I'm like, and I wanted to catch this little look up, so I go, and then I go, and right as I see Dad, I'm like, and I the knife gets stuck on a little bone as well. It goes. It doesn't come out smooth, you know. It kind of snags on the way out. There's cartilage to pull through. And
what do you think, Dad?
What do you think, Dad?
How'd I do, Dad? Good son.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I think. We get the fact that Wihtgar is Christian.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is like, how religious is he? Because killing priests.
Yeah, not very. I don't think. When I knew he was going to be, when I knew he was killing priests, and then when he kills Beachan, he's just like, fuck.
Right.
Which is, it's interesting. He must swing towards paganism more than, and if he's been out traveling with
who knows what he picked up
from. Yeah, exactly. He'll have heard of other customs and other religions and realized that there's other ways, you know, and also he had this little cross that I wanted to bring back in season 5 because I really liked. It's kind of like this little defiled cross. It looks more like a diamond shape, and the cross is it looks kind of not demonic, but it looks kind of like, it doesn't look like a nice little cross, you know. It was which I really liked, and I
feel like he's got this certain view because he's traveled probably more than anybody else that we've met on the show. You know, so he has this sort of world knowledge that nobody else has, which is kind of really cool. What are some things that you love about Wihtgar?
His kind of just ruthlessness.
Sure.
I like that he just puts himself first. You know, it comes at a cost, and it comes at the cost of people who work for him sometimes, but he is his most important person, you know, and it's kind of admirable in a sense, you know. I like to. He's wiser than he is honorable, because there's, you know, obviously a couple times when Uhtred's just fight me for honor, fight me for this place, and he's just like, no, of course I'm scared of you. That happened twice. It's like in season 4 he does the same.
Yeah,
exactly. It's the same thing in season 4. He's like, come down and fight me, and I'm like, what? Why would I do that?
Why would I sacrifice the crossbow position and all my men surrounding you? That seems dumb.
Literally, I hold the fortress.
That was
right. A cool line. I love the fact that I call him Uhtred Ragnarsson, and I give him his second father's name.
Right, discrediting his claim a little bit. Right.
Completely discrediting his claim.
You know?
Great word. His claim to Bebbanburg, which is, I love that moment. He has Wihtgar has some great lines.
He really does.
Really my script with all the shit. And,
cool. Good.
Good.
That's the Bible right there.
Yeah.
Holy moly, there's a scripture, baby. That's it.
What this?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It's yeah, I had all these like little things written down, just like the final like prophecy death scene right on the balcony.
Yeah.
I'd written down like I'd written down Batman Joker moment.
Yeah.
You know that scene when Batman is like beating the Joker and the Joker's just like, you have nothing against me.
Totally.
It felt a bit like that kind of moment. There was more in the script. They cut a bit from Uhtred's lines. Here it was, who is the Lord of Bebbanburg? And I'm like, it belongs to my father. And then he goes, who is the true heir? Who is the heir to Ida the Flame Bearer? Whose land is Berenicia? And it's, I think, I love the fact that Wihtgar's just like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
And I'm like, it belonged to my father.
Right.
You have nothing. Kill me. Go
you
on.
have nothing to threaten me with. Yeah, I can see that parallel. That's cool, man. That's cool. And there's also another moment that reminded me of the Dark Knight a little bit, and we talk about it in our episode recap.
Oh, really?
When Uhtred has you and Elfwin's you're both have the knives to your throat. And Uhtred's like, release her, and you say, let her go, and Yahya should have been like, very poor choice of words. Just dropped her over the edge.
Oh yeah.
And then Uhtred just dives down and lands into a car.
Oh yeah.
That'd have been perfect.
They probably filmed it.
Yeah.
That
was probably an option, and they just cut it out later, I assume.
They did actually. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, they did.
That's funny.
I kind of like working in that sense and like taking little inspiration moments from scenes from things I've seen or art or music. Like I love music as well, and listening to soundtracks before I have that moment when I come in and just after I found out Uhtred is at Bebbanburg, and I'm just like, what? Like, how the fuck did he get in? And it's just like, it's suddenly that is the root cause of all of Wihtgar's fears is
right.
Uhtred.
Right.
And when he's in, and I come down, and I come like a hurricane, and I come through the room where Constantine and Aethelhelm are figuring out what to do, and I'm like, where is he? What the fuck?
Right.
He could be anywhere.
It's like my worst nightmare happening right here. Like this is.
Yeah. Well, like literally before calling action, I'm like round the corner with headphones on, going.
So.
What do you listen to?
Yeah. I want to know like what soundtracks you identify with Wihtgar. Maybe some examples. Like
I have like a little Wihtgar playlist.
Cool.
And season 4, to be honest, it was a lot of Eminem.
Hey.
Yeah.
Cool.
At first, there was some of his more recent stuff. It was kind of like, it's bitey and angry, and it's like, and it kind of like it has like an arrogance and like I'm the best rapper in the world, like kind of thing. And so I love listening to a lot of that, just mainly like walking to set with headphones on and like Eminem playing. I like a lot of movie soundtracks, but a lot of the movies I listen to soundtracks from, I haven't seen the movie, so that I don't associate it with a particular scene.
I got you.
From that movie, and so it's just music that I can put my own kind of interpretation to, and that can fuel kind of and music is so powerful in that sense. You can listen to a piece from, if I listen to, like, I saw the new trailer for the Rings of Power, the new Lord of the Rings series on Prime. And just that moment when the music comes in and it's like before the ring, before the king, and I was just like, oh, and it's like bum, bum, and I was just like, like music has so much power to like influence the way you're feeling, and like to have to jump straight into what's happened just previously, like find him, like I'm storming around like looking for him, and just to use that just music to be like going straight into it, and was super helpful.
That's awesome.
I like doing that. Yeah,
that's super cool.
Let's see if I have any other cool notes that were worth mentioning from. Oh yeah, we those little moments that it's interesting because there's little moments that there's little moments that you are really cool and you remember them, and then sometimes they don't make the cut and you're like, oh well. Like me and Mark had I love the scine with Mark and Arnis. I finally got to do a scene with them when they're like on the ramparts, and I'm like, and Yahya's like, hey you, why are you not in the courtyard? And I'm like, wait, why is Constantine placed you here? And I love that Mark also just did his Scottish accent and was like,
great fake Scottish accent by Mark. I don't know how he's so good at that. Crazy.
Yeah.
He must have been getting some advice from Rod. He must have been, you know.
Oh man, that was just such a fun moment. Also to be like, no, Mark, no, just because they were suddenly then in the position Wihtgar's been having to like bite his tongue the whole time. They were suddenly having to pretend and not fight and just be like, no, we're with him, and just be like. But that was a cool
pretty
moment.
Good Mark right there too. It was pretty good Mark.
Mark accent.
Oh.
That was a great moment.
Yeah.
You know, your men have strayed where they're not wanted.
Yeah, Constantine, your men stray where they're not wanted.
I like it too because you're in a position now too where like you don't want Constantine's men sort of getting surrounded on this place just in case he tries to make a move in your fortress. You're like, let's just keep them in the courtyard. So if anything happens, we can just pull out the crossbows and everything will be fine.
Yeah. It's amazing that everything is going fine for Wihtgar until he finds out Uhtred is at Bevenberg.
Yep.
And then suddenly he just becomes this like flaming hot mess. He can't think properly anymore almost. Yeah. Like, because up until that point, like he's dealing with Constantine and he's kind of managing his own quite well at the end there until Uhtred arrives.
Uhtred just ruins everything, man. Are you a master crossbowman now?
Huh?
Do you use the crossbow at all? Did you actually like practice with any sort of real crossbow or anything? Or
yeah, well, the crossbow they let us use is actually a real crossbow.
Oh yeah,
sweet.
They have stronger versions and looser versions. But then when there's that bit when me and Yahya are like firing crossbows, shooting down Scots because they're burning the village.
Yeah,
right. Sniping them.
We were actually just loading blanks. Basically, we were just pretending to load bolts, and then they CG the bolts in afterwards. But like those are hard to crank. Like you can't just be like, nah. You have to like. We'd be like, you have to shoot it, and then you have to go put your foot in the thing, pull it up with like two hands,
right,
and then get it back and then shoot it. Like those things are so hard to pull, and like making it look like we've done that and like we're experienced was we practiced a bit before, but like because we're not allowed to borrow them or anything, we just
too bad.
To like, quickly figure out how to like do it, but.
I think we talk about when we do our season 4 recap about how like, why doesn't he just grab another arrow and just shoot again? It's like, because those things back then were not easy to pull. And I know Bernard Cornwell writes about that. I'm not sure in the Last Kingdom novels, but he certainly writes about crossbows and how they are pretty difficult to reload.
Yeah, completely. Some crossbows, like heavy crossbows, you have to crank.
Totally.
If you can pull it by hand, surely it's not going to produce enough strength to pierce armor. So you'd have to be
you have
precise.
To aim for the eyes.
You'd have to aim for the eyes or the neck, or the one I used in season 4 was much easier to pull back. It was a different crossbow as well. It was a much wider, bigger crossbow. The ones we used in season 5 were more compact, more Saxon. It feels like.
Cool. I like how you brought like a different weapon into the show that we hadn't seen yet. It was. Yeah. It's kind of cool to see how history is unfolding, different technologies are, being brought here. And, that was cool.
Yeah, we got to talk about this as well briefly at some point.
Of course. We do.
What's it like? What's Elden Ring like?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't gotten it yet.
Have you played Souls games before?
I haven't played. Well, I've played a little bit of Dark Souls, but then like a lot of games now like are kind of have that feel, like even like. Like we both played what's the Jedi
game? Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, it's one of our favorites. Yeah,
that was kind of. I only played a bit of Dark Souls as well, but Jedi Fallen Order was kind of like Dark Souls in the sense that you have to respawn to that place and then.
Yeah,
and it was hard. It was hard for me anyway.
It was hard. I loved it though. That could have been a movie in its own. Like that story. That was so cool.
Yeah, it was so good. Elden Ring is amazing. It's completely open world, which is super nice. I'm loving it. I'm like 20 hours in or something.
Jeez. Okay. That's awesome.
I think it's and annoyingly I started playing it. I got it from my sister for her birthday, and then I was like, I'd seen gameplay and I was like not convinced. I was like, Skyrim looks just as good. Like,
Yeah,
right.
And then I played a bit while I was home last week, and I was like, oh man, this is good.
I'm gonna take this gift back. I'm gonna.
Yeah, well, I just bought it again for myself.
Oh, cool.
Part of me is like, oh man, this is easily going to be like 100+ hour game,
Right?
because you can just, the world is so big and there's so much you can do. Like, I'm trying to just, I have a play coming up. I start rehearsals for a play on Monday. We do a month of rehearsals, and then we do the play for a month. And part of me is like, oh my God, how am I going to like do the play and then also play this at the same time?
Right.
That was me when I got my brother's The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. I was like, oh, here you go. Yeah. And like, then I played a little bit of it. I was like, I want this. And that's like crack, you know?
Yeah. The Witcher 3 was so good, but I think I sunk like 150 hours into that.
Yeah.
Easily. Like,
Same.
It's so complex as well. And it takes, the annoying thing is with these games, they're so complex that I feel like I'm doing just as much research outside of playing as I am playing. Like, whenever I play, I have my laptop next to me and I'm like, okay, how the fuck do I get, like, what is this? Like, how does this work?
Yeah. I think that's what makes me nervous about Elden Ring is I like games a little bit more streamlined. Like, I like a little bit of like, you can go where you want. Like Jedi Fallen Order was pretty perfect for me because you could go different paths, but you pretty much had to stay within certain guidelines.
Yeah, boundaries.
We just played We just played Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is a huge open world. Loved the game. The raids were awesome, but it was for me personally a little too open world. What was perfect for me too was Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. Yeah. Have you played those? You're a Lord of the Rings fan. Those became a couple of my favorite games real quick.
I found with Assassin's Creed Valhalla the same. The world was just too big, like so big, and then oh my God, like I must have played for about 50, 60 hours, and I was like not even scratching the surface, and there was so much to do. But it's amazing though. And I spoke to Magnus about it. Because he was in it and stuff, and I was like, "Dude, I'm playing as you." He was like, "No way!"
So cool.
Like, that's good. I love video games, and also The Last of Us. I'm a huge fan. Like,
that's what I wanted. Yeah, was it The Last of Us?
Yeah, I don't know if I can switch the camera.
Oh, you've got a couple.
Oh,
dude, these are from The Last of Us 2. So this is like the original poster, right? From the first game, which was amazing. And then there was an artist I found on Instagram called Jake Contu. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, cool.
And he did like these like limited edition prints, which I thought were just gorgeous. And like I love that they captured like so many different parts of the game. That once you've played the game like completely, I'll switch back to me. Like once you played the game, those posters, I'm just like, oh man, I remember all those moments.
I don't know why I was in the part 2 when I always see Burrito's face when I look at the way her face is in that poster. I don't know why I just see Emily Cox.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. It just kind of resembles her in part 2.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Yeah. Those are that's part 2 is hands down the best game I've ever played.
Oh,
like, in terms of story, gameplay, and I've played it like 2 or 3 times, and I've got I got my sister to play it, and by the end she was like, like by the end scene you're like no.
Oh like, man.
And then
I'm sad when you have a game you love and finish it. It's like,
oh, I know. I can never play it for the first time again.
So Ossian, what kind of career goals do you have?
Oh my God, good question. I would love to do more indie films. I mean, I've only done like I've done an indie short film. I guess most short films are indie films, but I've never done a feature, and I would love to do an indie feature. I think me and Joe Milson were talking a lot about this, and also being on season 4 in Last Kingdom was one of my first times on. I think it was my 3rd time on like a big movie, a big TV set, right? And I think what occurred during season 4 is I realized that like your freedom is more limited in TV, it feels like, when it comes to like your choices and like what you want to do and stuff, because the writers have an idea of your character, the director has an idea of your character, the producers have ideas for your character, and so really like you're just another person just being like, well, I have ideas for my character too. And then sometimes they're just like, we prefer our ideas. And then it's like,
right.
And so it's really hard to, that's why season 4 was a weird experience for me, is it felt like I had strong ideas of what I wanted to do for Wihtgar, but then so did the director. And I felt like the first day we were negotiating like how we wanted to pitch him. And we kind of felt like we kind of compromised. We made compromise, for both of us.
Right.
And so anyway, so I found shooting season 4, and it's a certain style of shooting. When you shoot TV, it has to move quickly, and all the shots are already laid out. You have a rehearsal, but the director generally knows how it's going to play out and how it's going to be shot. Obviously, like, you get a say in the scenes when you're doing them, and talk with the director and stuff while shooting. But I think generally in TV, it seems to be that for the sake of time, things are planned out quite well beforehand. I guess movies too, but like,
right.
Anyway, it's Joe Milson that was telling me that indie movies, you tend to have the most freedom because they have a much lower budget and they're much just happier for any input you have, and everybody's input is super welcome. So I'd like to try something like that someday. But season 5 was different. Season 5 was amazing, and already to have done season 4 and understand the kind of the structure of how Last Kingdom shoots and stuff, and go back and be like, oh, I get this now, and this is really fun now, was amazing, and made the whole experience like unforgettable. So yes, indie features I'd like to do more of.
Awesome.
I like characters that are further from myself.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I don't want to just, it'd be nice at some point just to play somebody who's kind of like me, and just have a super chill job and just be like, it's like me. But then I do like playing character, Well,
that's acting, isn't it? I mean, that's why probably most people get into acting, is to be someone other than yourself, right? And
completely. I think it seems to be harder and harder nowadays to do that. The casting process seems to be looking for the actor to be the character,
right?
Which makes it an interesting kind of thing. Instead of getting John Wayne to play Genghis Khan, kind of thing. Yeah. Of course.
Interesting.
Flatmate were talking about this. It's like, well, if there was a gay role, a character who was gay, how would I feel
performing
taking that role from somebody who is gay? Or but also it's interesting.
It's something that's probably debatable, and I think it's probably increasingly debatable as time continues to move forward. But obviously, if you've seen Modern Family, the guy who plays Cam is fantastic. He plays him, but he's not, and he's the flamboyant one in the show. But in real life, he's straight. That's probably something that's, as time goes on, that's going to change. So what kind of movies and shows are you watching right now that you're enjoying?
Oh, I've been watching. My girlfriend got me started on this. I never really watched The Simpsons much. Like, I watched it a bit when it was on TV and stuff. I was never like huge into cartoons.
Okay.
And then she just got me watching Disenchantment.
Oh, okay.
It's on
I haven't
Netflix.
seen it.
It's by the same people who did The Simpsons.
Okay.
But it's set in like medieval times.
Oh, cool.
It's a lot of fun. So I kind of watch that just, while I'm having dinner or something. I'll have a little, and they're 20-30 minute episodes, so it's super easy. But I rewatched Whiplash. That's amazing.
Oh, cool.
I like Whiplash. That's a good movie.
I loved Euphoria that came out recently.
Yeah.
Season 2. I saw season 1 when it first came out, so I had to wait all the time. I had to wait like 2 years for season 2.
Yeah, I feel like when season 1 came out, there wasn't much hype about it, but this time, like, the hype was real. Like, social media is like almost everywhere.
Yeah, like almost 100 or 200% extra viewers or something.
Is that what it is?
That.
Wow. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
I read something like that.
I thought it was a new show. I didn't realize that the show had come out, like, because of all the media that I was seeing. I was like, oh, it's a new show with Zendaya. And then I saw that it came out 2019 or something. Like, it's been around.
It's so raw as a show. It's really kind of, and also I think what I loved about it is, I mean, the acting is phenomenal, but what I loved about it is the cinematography is just gorgeous. And you can tell the style they're going for is like kind of like Polaroids and instant cameras, the kind of disposable camera style. Like, it's all, season 2 is entirely shot on film. Whereas season 1, they had like the flashback scenes were shot on film, I think. And it just, the aesthetic of it is just, I mean, incredible.
It's very neat.
I enjoyed that.
I watched parts of it and I sort of thought to myself, like, it doesn't seem like the directors and the cinematography, it doesn't seem like they have rules. It seems like they could go in any direction they want. There's no guideline for the show. In fact, maybe the only guideline is that you have to do something completely different or something totally unexpected, like for as far as cinematography goes, which was interesting.
I think they were completely interested in something slightly surreal, you know, and not interested in keeping it in the natural, I guess. Which comes through, and it was a really cool show to watch. I think I'm just stuck in Elden Ring now.
Elden Ring, that's all that matters.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to get Elden Ring, and you know. And
sometimes it's like a good video game is like watching a movie for hours. You know? It's a movie that lasts.
Yeah.
I go through phases like shows, movies, video game, reading.
We really appreciate you taking the time today to talk to us. Steve, do you have any other questions?
No. Yeah, thank you so much. Like we said, we loved Wihtgar as a villain, and we really liked your portrayal of him too. So totally. Thank you for taking the time to tell us about this stuff.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was good fun.
Awesome. So everybody, you know, Ossian's links are going to be down below. Check it out, his Instagram and all his social media. You know, Ossian, we hope that you have a very successful future here. We're definitely going to be following you and everything that you're involved in. Is there anything coming up that you want to talk about that you're in or anything? You said you're getting ready for a play.
Yeah, I'm getting ready for a play. We start rehearsals Monday. I have my little script book.
Good.
This cut up thing where I put the script on one side and I leave the other side blank and
nice
make notes and stuff. And we're going to be on at the White Bear Theatre, which is in Kennington in London from like the 11th of May till the 5th of June, something like that.
Cool.
Otherwise, I have a audiobook that came out called The Little Prince. I did a reading of The Little Prince, and that came out recently, so that's on Audible.
Oh, cool.
Other than that, no.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, cool.
Well, check those out, everybody. If you are able to go to his play, definitely go. But thank you again, Ossian. Thank you again for taking the time. And all the listeners, we hope you subscribe to us. We hope you've enjoyed this talk. You know, we'll be back soon. And like we always say,
goodbye.
Goodbye. And destiny is on.